let's tell you what you're going to get out of this, just if you're not really sure, because you're thinking, what am I going to get? All right, we're going to cover a few points here, and I have the list behind me, so I'm going to scroll through. So why bodyweight workouts only are too limited, and I don't recommend those. We'll cover that. What the best type of equipment is for at-home workouts is and why, and super bands or strength bands, they're really low on my list. I know that's a go-to for every trainer. That's the most overrated band out there. It's still workable, but we'll talk about what I like a lot better than that. And yes, of course, NT loops. You all know I'm biased. I got the shirt. It's not just NT loops, so you don't have to try to ding me on just being biased on that one. One I'm going to start with, and we'll circle back in a little bit, is how to make vertical pulling choices better. That's a quick one, so I'll start with that one. Two more. How to keep home workout sessions fresh. We know that us trainers, we talk about consistency and stick with the basics and all that cool trainer talk. But clients, they like variety. They like to keep it fresh. They're not gym rats like we are, right? They're exercise enthusiasts. It has to be interesting. If workouts that were interesting weren't something that were popular, then things like boot camps and Orange Theory Fitness and F45 wouldn't be handing all of us trainers our asses. They're all based off of variety, right? So we got to keep it interesting. And interestingly, if you keep workouts varied with some consistency, it keeps clients more consistent with their workouts. Kind of a cool little deal there. So we'll talk about how to do that with limited options. And I'll give you several practical programming tips that you can implement immediately to do that. And then one is a logistical tip on how to pair up home exercises for more efficiency and setup, which your clients will appreciate. And then we will do Q&A. All right, now, first one, I'm going to cover real quick. Vertical pulling. Now, the obvious one is, we'll do chin-ups. Okay, there's two prerequisites for that. One, you need to be able to do chin-ups, right? And a majority of our clients cannot do chin-ups or cannot do more than one or two without struggling, right? And then you also need super bands or strength bands to spot. And you also need a bar setup that's secure enough that they're not going to pull the framing off their door, or that they can even set up a bar in their house. Rarely do people have a chin-up bar bolted to the wall. If you have a chin-up bar bolted to the wall, you're probably a personal trainer, an exercise enthusiast, and you probably got barbells at home anyway, right? So you've already prepared for this kind of stuff. We're talking about the everyday gym goer, not the people like us who organize our lives around kitchens and bathrooms, right? So, all right, the next thing would go, well, we don't have the chin-up bar, you can't do chin-ups. Bands, right? Bands, great. Okay, so, and by the way, I did a YouTube video about this years ago. I will post the link down in the comments when we're done this video. The mistake I make is everybody thinks lat pull down, the vector is up there, or the line of pull is up there. Don't want to piss off biomechanics nerds if that's the wrong terminology to use. If the vector is up there, that means I have to have a band higher than me. So I see trainers bending over backwards to get their clients to do lat pull downs where they tie a band above them, above a tree or at the top of a doorway, and then they lean over and they get on their knees. Folks, you don't have to go through all this trouble to do a vertical pull, a lat pull down. Now, instead of getting up and show you, a lot of you are familiar with this book of mine, Strength Training for Fat Loss. It's the first book. I got a picture of it right here. See that? That's how you do a band lat pull down. Bring your torso to the band. There's the band. And bend over to it. You don't have to have the band above you. The nice thing about that setup is you can do something like this. I got this name from Christian Thibodeau. Shout out to Christian. Motorcycle row, we just call it a one-arm lat pull down. You can also do alternate arm, right? So all I need to have is the band attached about my chest level, bend over just like you're going to do a Romanian deadlift, and there's your lat pull down. So it's something that I always found kind of confusing / amusing that this doesn't seem as obvious. And the reason why I came up with this, or I didn't even realize this was a problem until years ago, I was programming a lat pull down with bands to a client of mine, and I was trying to refer them to YouTube videos. And I was looking at all the YouTube videos. I'm going, nobody has one of these with their torsos bent over, so I just did one. So that's number one tip. All right, that one's easy. Now, let's kind of circle back and talk about why this whole idea of just body weight training is too limited. So I've heard this saying for a long time. It's nothing new. It's that I first have my clients master their body with body weight training before they take on weights or external loads. Okay, I get it. I like that you have some sort of progressive nature to your thinking, so I'm never going to down anybody for that. However, let's say you have a dumbbell. Let's say you're at a gym, right? We're going to circle this to home workouts. And I'm doing something like a bent over row. I know you can't see my arms for that much, but you know what a bent over row looks like. Is this not mastering my body to be able to get into this position? Right? Everything has to do with mastering your body, right? So, but to keep with that same sort of saying of master your body with body weight training, my favorite saying is master your body with body weight training. Master your environment with external loads. Because all of them have to do with mastering your body in a certain way, really, right? But we like cool sayings, so there's your cool saying. Now, what does that look like in terms of equipment? Because this is going to play into what's the best equipment in my mind to have. If you only did body weight, you're dealing with one load, direction, gravity, down, right? Now, sure, you can do horizontal loading if you do push-ups, right? Because now you're aligning your body this way against gravity. So if you've got body weight, push-ups, you got a lot of variations. That is provided you can do push-ups, but you could do push-ups off the kitchen counter, things like that, right? And you've got a lot of squat and lunge variations that you can do. But when it comes to pulling, especially if you can't do pull-ups, what are you going to do? Y and T people to death, right? So get bands. If you get bands, and I'm going to tell you the bands I recommend here in a minute, now you can load the horizontal direction and diagonal direction high to low and low to high. And that's more rotational. Now, some of you might think, well, you can, if you had some momentum built up with speed, you can load those directions, sure. But how many of your general fitness clients are athletic enough and you're confident enough to not be there with them to have them do things super fast, rotational, right? So let's be realistic here. So there's a saying in the NFL about players that versatility equals value. You will not find a more versatile piece of equipment than resistance bands. Buy a pair of resistance bands, several pairs, we'll talk about those here in a moment. They will add endless variety. Now you basically have a cable column at home. Yes, I know it's progressive resistance. The band gets heavier as you go. To get into all the nuances of how to manage that is a separate topic. It's certainly beyond this video. But for the most part, it's a cable in your gym bag. It's a cable at home, right? Now, so that way you have endless variety of pulling. You could do 2-arm, you could do 1-arm, you could do alternate arm, you could do the lat pull downs. Now you have so much more variety. 1-arm movements, whatever you got there, right? So to me, that whole idea of just doing body weight training, that's just, to me, it does not make practical sense. Sounds good, doesn't make practical sense. So get some bands, have a lot more versatility in your workouts. They're certainly worth it. Now, that brings me to this question. What is the best equipment? What I mean by best is, because some people know, well, what is the best, right? Always trainers hate that term. Well, I like it because that's what clients ask. So here's what I mean by the best. Store is easy, is affordable, and very versatile. All those things make it valuable. Now, let me take you through what I go with there. First off, let's get the obvious one out of the way. You know I'm an NT loop fan, right? We have two different tensions. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I'm not making this video an advertisement, but I do believe in what I have. So we have two different tensions. If you're not familiar with these are designed basically to be a more comfortable super band or strength band, but they're way more comfortable and stable and washable around your body. Plus, the newer versions of these, so if you have an NT loop that you got maybe several months ago, you won't have this, but all the new NT loops now have the built-in door anchor strap. This makes this band 1,000 times even more versatile. This goes in the door. We're going to talk about safety of that in a second. And now you can use this in a million different ways, like you have it hooked to a cable column or something sturdy at home. That's a big limitation with super bands. Unless you have something to tie them around that's stable, that's not going to come off, then super bands don't really have a lot of value there unless you're doing like spotting yourself with chin-ups or putting them around barbells. Super bands are designed to go around barbells and chin-up bars. These are designed to go around your body. All right? Now, real quick, safety tip, because this is going to apply to the other bands I'm going to show you here in a second that aren't my bands. When you are hooking the anchor strap in your doorway, this flap here is what goes on the other side of the door. Make sure you tell your clients this too, because resistance band accidents, most of them are preventable, and you do not want that snappage and hitting them in the face, because you are liable. Go to the hinge side of the door and make sure they're pulling the door closed, not pulling the door open. The hinge side of the door is the tightest part of the door, not on the side where the handle is, and not necessarily up top of the door, because sometimes there's a little bit more play in the door there. Now, you could probably put something through this if you want and adapt it if they want. Hinge, make sure you tell them, hinge side of the door, pulling the door closed. These go on the other side of the door. This is going to apply to the other bands I'm going to show you in a second that are not my bands. And tell them to make sure it's secure before you start working with it, because you would be shocked at how many lawsuits trainers get in and usually lose by resistance band accidents. So, number one is those bands. Number two is these bands I'm holding here. Now, I'm going to try to stand up for a second, because these are the same bands, but two different styles. First off, you see these are very long. They have handles, and they have a long door anchor strap at the top as well with a loop. There are two places to get these bands. One is Perform Better. Now, mind you, I'm in the States. I'm going to talk about companies in the United States, but they do ship internationally. For you folks that are outside the United States, I cannot recommend another company that may sell these, but now you know what to look for. I'm sure you could probably get them. At Perform Better, these are called All-Purpose Bands. The other bands I have, I don't think you can get at Perform Better, but you can get these at Perform Better. Now, here's why I like these. I've been using these throughout my career. There are a lot of people know them as JC bands for Coach JC Santana, not the guitar player, the strength coach. And to me, there is no better band with handles, and by the way, I get no affiliate codes or anything like this, than these bands here. They have a really heavy-duty handle. They're really nicely set up. And why I like it here is, let's say you have it in the door, right? You see this separate anchor point? So now, if I had this in the door, I actually could go from a 2-arm exercise, drop one handle, and then go to a 1-arm exercise. Or I could have two people working at the same time off the same anchor point. If you want to wrap it around something, you use this. So you would put this like this. This would be like a pole or something like that, and then the band would feed through this loop. You will not find a more versatile, better made band on the market with handles to do. These are what most gyms, to me, should have, and this is, with the whole super band thing, they're so limited. The fact that I hardly see facilities, much less home gyms, with bands with handles, I mean heavy-duty bands that are going to challenge someone who's fairly athletic and strong, it baffles me. Those super band loops, to me, I use them for assisted chin-ups and going around barbells and maybe a few warm-up exercises, but they're not that great of the bands. I think we copy CrossFit and powerlifters way too dang much with all those bands, and somehow about 10 years ago, these bands with handles just seemed to disappear. That's something that just absolutely blows my mind. Bands with handles are amazing. Even in your regular everyday workouts, we'll cover that next. Now, so Perform Better, all-purpose bands, if you get them, so that's performbetter.com. Also, JC Santana has these. These actually are a little heavier duty than you get at Perform Better. As far as I know, that's what these are here. IHP Fit. IHPFit.com. It may be IHP-fit.com, but you'll find them. JC bands. You can get them there as well. Shout out to JC and the IHP family. Now, the other set. By the way, they do make both these in a shorter version. They call it the travel version. I'm not a fan of that. The bands are shorter, so they're more portable, but they don't stretch as well because the bands are shorter. So I don't recommend the travel version. Now, this is the exact same design for years, and I mean a decade or so. I've had all my clients get these. You can only get these at JC's site, ihpfit.com. Again, no affiliates here, nothing like that. I'm just promoting what I believe in and have used my entire career. These are an adjustable version. So all you would do here is you would just pull one band out, pull it like this, and now I'm working against two bands. So you can go from a single band, double band, triple band, and they sell these in different colors. For most of your clients, I would tell them to get the pink if you're going to get the Predator. Orange, if you're a little bit stronger and you're kind of a gym rat, all three of these will challenge anybody. If you are getting the, so by the way, those are the Predator bands. If you are getting the All-Purpose Bands or the JC bands, then I would recommend having them get probably like an orange color. Seems to be a pretty neutral color. And by the way, if you are, so let's say you have one set of bands and one person in the household is stronger than the other person. Well, if I'm doing rows, the weaker person would do one handle in each hand and then go to another exercise. Let's say you're working out together. The stronger person can put both handles in one hand and do rows. So now I've just doubled the tension with the same band. Right? The other obvious way to make bands heavier and lighter is to shorten and lengthen the tension on the bands, right? So that's a quick drop set. You want to make your programs a little more versatile with bands right away? Do drop sets. Have your clients stand out further, bang out a bunch of reps, and tell them, once you can't do any more reps, don't stop the set there. Walk in a little closer and finish more reps. That's a drop set with bands. There you go. It's an easy thing that's not taken advantage of. And lastly, is, I know that Perform Better calls these mini bands. I know a lot of people are, using the fabric ones. I know every booty builder on Insta, booty model female, has got the fabric ones, the hip bands. Those are great. My girlfriend's got an entire collection of those, right? They're fine too. The problem is they're usually too heavy because they're designed just to be around your knees where you're really strong and you're moving in a very short range of motion. So those bands, I'm not downing them. I think they're great to have for hip thrusts and other exercises like that. But if you have one that's lighter, like a yellow or a green, sorry, I dropped this one. Now you have a lot more versatility with a lighter band to do other things with, such as put it around the tops of your feet and do resisted hip flexions, or resisted hip flexion while you do some sort of like slow motion mountain climber kind of deal. So having a lighter band allows you to do more things. Plus these stretch a lot more. I know Perform Better has a newer version of these that certainly do not rip as much. They actually showed me. So they actually put a slice in it on this version, pulled it, and it just popped right away. Then they put a slice in the newer version, pulled it, and it didn't pop. So I was pretty impressed. That's fairly new. So shout out to Perform Better for that one. Okay, now, so I gave you my tops of equipment. The super bands or strength bands, to me, they're nice to have. They're not a need to have. If you have all these other pieces of equipment, if I do recommend them, it's really because if you have a chin-up bar to do them for assisted chin-ups. All the other things that you like to do, pull-aparts and things like that, you can do those with NT loops, all right? And because you have that door anchor strap. So, now, that's that. Now, this is not just getting these pieces of equipment. I've made all my clients, when I say made, I've highly encouraged my clients. I don't force anybody to do anything. To get all these pieces of equipment anyway, long before all this stuff that, we were all stuck at home, right? Why? Trainers, listen up with this, because there's going to be a time everything goes back to normal or whatever normal, the new normal is going to become. Having these bands in your gym bag does several things, and getting your clients to have them does several things that might not be intuitive. One, overcome gym logistics. Here's what I mean. Your clients are learning from you when you're training them, and a lot of us trainers are at a private studio or at our own little home gym or whatever. That's great. You don't have a lot of members around. You got your choice of equipment, and you don't have to fight for real estate, meaning everybody and their dog is not there at 6 p.m. or 6 a.m. trying to get the same piece of equipment, right? Because like for example, if you superset in your gym, a lat pull down and some sort of barbell exercise, a squat, A lot of trainers will look at that, great, you know, a knee dominant movement and a vertical pull, very good concept, great. Never gonna work in a big box gym. And clearly trainers who put that in programs in their books don't work in big box gyms, because you put that in a big box gym at a busy time, as soon as you walk away from that lat pull down, that lat pull down is taken from someone else, right? Same thing with the squat rack. That just does not work. It doesn't make logistical sense. However, if you have bands, I can go over to that squat rack, attach the bands now, and now I can do lat pull downs right there and never leave that piece of real estate. That's number one. Number two, by default, what are you teaching your clients to be competent and capable with? Bands. When does that apply? Well, it applies to situations like this. Now when they get home, they go, I don't know what to do. Send me workouts. All I know is barbells and machines and cable columns. Not my clients. My clients have been versatile with bands throughout every day that they've been training with me, because they've always been an integral part, because bands are not just for beginners and rehabilitation. That's another ridiculous myth, right? That's one of the reasons why I designed that Build Muscle Without Weights program, because the big myth of oh, it's only for beginners. Try phase 2 of that that 8-week program. That will challenge even the fittest of athlete. All right? Now, by the way, thank you for everybody who's gotten that program thus far. So it's buildmusclewithoutweights.com if they want the website there. Shameless plug. Third, now that you have these bands, when you go away, because this is kind of a rare situation here, right, that we're all in. But what's not rare is when they travel. Hey, what am I going to do when I travel? No problem. Take your bands with handles, take your NT loops, take a set of these. They're easily portable. You're good to go. You're very familiar with how these work. Oh, you want to work out at home? You can't make a workout. You got to cancel. No problem. You know what to do. So getting bands is far beyond, the value of getting bands is far beyond just emergency backup. Oh, I can't get to the gym. What am I going to do? That's a real bummer. Nonsense. Nonsense. This has always been an integrated part of my programs, and I encourage. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just here to highlight what I do and encourage to, as trainers, get yourself more familiar with the different types of bands, understand how to utilize them, start finding some resources on better ways to use them. I actually have one full chapter in this book of all body weight and band workouts. This is one of the best-selling books on human kinetics. This is my first book. And then, again, if you want the workout program, we have this Build Muscle Without Weights program. We have the digital version. I just had it printed up because I needed something to hold. BuildMuscleWithoutWeights.com there. Okay, now, we covered all that. Now, let's talk about ways to keep things fresh at home, because now we are limited with equipment, right? And yes, some other people do have other things at home, suspension trainers. They may have dumbbells and benches. Good for them. That's even better. Those things are nice to have. They're not need to have. Yes, if you're a big, gym bro and you're really into lifting heavy, well, then you have to have that for you. But most people aren't going to have that situation. I mean, a barbell is not a very space-efficient piece of equipment, so you have to have that space. But those bands they're workable for anybody. So that's why I highlighted them. The other piece of equipment I would mention, before I forget, is a stability ball. Another highly underrated piece of equipment. I know trainers now all of a sudden that think that means circus acts. Look, don't blame a piece of equipment for dumb things that people do on it. I've seen people do some of the dumbest things with barbells. Nobody blames the barbell. They blame the user. But when people misuse a stability ball, for whatever reason, they blame the tool. I don't understand that inconsistent logic. Stability ball, again, is one of the most affordable, versatile, therefore valuable pieces of equipment that you can have in your house. Make sure you buy a high quality one. And for exercises like leg curls, if you're into flexion stuff, crunches where you can get a lengthen, really get a stretch. If you're not into the flexion stuff, I get it. I know that's a hot topic with trainers. Rollouts, knee tucks, tons of exercises to do. All right. So now let's move on to ways to spice things up. That's probably what you all really came for. First one is, I'm going to give you 6 suggestions here. There's many that you could do, but these are some of the ones that are the top ones off my head that I wrote down. what I call FL5. FL5 is just fancy trainer terms for fat loss 5. When I say fancy, I don't mean fancy like scientific. I mean something that clients are going to go, that sounds sexy, I want to do it, right? Because it's not about knowing that exercise is medicine. It only works if you take your medicine. So it just makes the medicine taste good. Fat loss 5. What does that mean? This is more of a metabolic circuit sort of thing. If you don't quite follow my what I'm going to describe it to you, we have circuits in this book as a reference. Easy to get on Amazon. So here's what a Fat Loss 5 circuit involves. 4 resistance training exercises, 1 cardio exercise. That's the circuit. 5 different exercises. Not necessarily, well, let's go in this order. The cardio is always last, but the 4 resistance exercises are not necessarily in this order. A lower body exercise, a core exercise, an upper body push, an upper body pull, cardio. Right? Now, the 4 resistance training exercises are done 45 seconds on, 15 seconds recovery. 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 All right? For all you math wizards out there, how long is that? 4 minutes. Then you could do cardio for 5. The other way to do that, would the rest, if you give a minute rest, that would actually be 6 minutes. If you went 30 seconds on, 15 off, this is the traditional way to do it. 15 off, so that's 45 seconds in interval. 30 on, 15 off, 30 on, 15 off, 30 on, 15 off. That's 3 minutes. This is the chosen, the go-to way I do it. 1 minute of cardio, right? It could just be marching in place. It could be waist-resisted marching with the NT loop. Could be shadow boxing. If you're a little more advanced, it could be jumping jacks. Could be the dreaded burpees. Ooh, controversial topic. I think burpees are great if you do them well. Whatever you choose based on your fitness level, and you can mix it up. You do that for a minute, that would equal 4 minutes. 45 seconds in interval, 30 on, 15 off, times 2, 1.5 minutes, times 4, 3 minutes, 4 minute cardio, rest 1 minute, 5 minutes. 5 stations, 5 minutes per shot. You go 3 rounds through, 15 minutes, you're done. You could do a whole workout like that. All right? Normally what I like to do is keep the cardio interval the same for about 2 to 3 rounds. The cardio interval the same throughout the workout, but change the strength exercises every 2 to 3 rounds, depending on how many rounds you want to do. By the way, trainers, that could be a finisher at the end of your workouts. So that's more of a metabolic style workout. I wrote an article for T-Nation. I'm going to tell you the title of it right now on this next aspect, which is speed work with bands. No, you don't need barbells to do dynamic effort stuff. This is another kind of monkey see, monkey do. Power lifters, I see power lifters do it, so I do it. No, take the concept, not necessarily the applications. So here's the title of the exercise. Here's the title of the article that you can read on T-Nation for free now to see tons of exercises on how to do this with the bands I just showed you, the bands with handles. The article is called 15 Exercises for a Powerful Upper Body, and I will put the link down when this video is shared. Now, all you do is go fast. Right? So go as fast, instead of counting reps, say I want you to do as many presses as you can do in 10 to 12 seconds. Bam, 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 like that. Right? You can do this with lower body. You can do it with pulls. That's dynamic effort work. That's power work. And by the way, power work is not just for athletes. Look at the research on this. As we grow older and get into our twilight years and our senior years, we actually lose power faster than we lose strength. Strength is force production. Power is rate of force production. We actually lose power at a quicker rate than we lose strength. If you don't use it, you lose it. One of the ways that's been demonstrated to not lose it, do it. All right, so power is for everybody. One of the rules that I have with all my clients is we do something fast every day. Not fast based off of my pace, not fast based off of your 12-year-old kid's pace. As fast as you can. It's whatever you try to do. And bands are great for that. One of my favorite applications. Put the band about shoulder height, door hinge level. Bands behind you, grab it like this. As many presses as you can do. Turn around. As many pulls as you can do. In anywhere from 8 to 12 seconds. Do you want a benchmark? I got a benchmark. How heavy should the band be? How far you should be back? I got you covered. I want 2 reps a second. It is doable. I promise you. Look, bam, 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 that fast. That was like 2.5 reps a second. Now, you don't necessarily need bands to do speed work. For some of you more fit folks out there, I got a challenge for you. And if you've seen my workshops and come to them, you've seen I can do this. I can do 20 push-ups going to 90 degree and up, and I've got a lot of evidence on this. As fast as I can do them. My record, I think, is about 10.5 seconds, normally around 11 seconds or so. So it's 90 degrees and up, not full lockout. So here's what I want you to do. Here's your challenge for some of you fitter folks. Do the 20 rep push-up challenge. Of course, prerequisite that you can do 20 push-ups fairly easily. And you can also do 20 squats to thighs parallel, bottom of the thighs parallel, not femur parallel. Try to do that 20 reps in as fast as you can. All right, try to do the squats in under 15 seconds. Try to do the push-ups in under 12 seconds. 90 degrees all the way up, but soft elbow, soft knee at the top. It is doable if you're powerful enough. And that is a whole new world of intensity than just doing 20 push-ups. All right, so that's a good little challenge for you to try. So adding speed to certain exercises, adding speed to a dumbbell press is horrible because the dumbbells are going to want to fly out of your hands. That's not a good combination. But bands, they stay with you. They stay with you. All right? So that brings me, I already talked about band drop sets. So now you go out as far as you can without making the band feel like it's going to snap. You know, within general band recommendations is don't stretch resistance bands more than 2 to 2.5 times their starting length. All right, general rule of thumb. So you go out far, you bang out your reps. Don't stop the set there. Once you can't do any more, back up, finish it. That's your drop set. Another really easy way to do drop sets is just go from full range of motion to partial range of motion. A couple easy ways to mix things up a little bit. In the same token as adding speed, mix up tempos. So, for example, one day you can say this is your power-based day. And when I say that, this could be for grandma, right? As fast as grandma can go, however fast that goes. She's got her bands, right? She's squatting to the bench where she touches her butt to the couch and comes back up. One day you have her do a really slow and come up. Another day you say do as many butt touches on the couch as you possibly can get. Same exercise, but you change the point of emphasis of it. 2 different types of stimulus. All right? So you kind of focus on what days you have a focus on. All right? One day is a little bit more slower eccentric. Another day is a little bit more faster reps. Another one, this is going to be a little old school, and this may sound a little too 1990s, early 2000s functional for some of you hardcore lifters out there, but change the plane of motion. All right, one of my favorite references to this is who a lot of people call the godfather of function, Gary Gray, talking about the old lunge matrix. So if one day you're doing forward lunges, another day you do lateral lunges, another day you do rotational lunges. If you're doing push-ups, one day you do regular push-ups, another day you do rotational push-ups, another day you do side push-ups, right? Again, we're talking about how to mix it up without just using equipment as variety when we don't have a variety of equipment to work with. To a lot of trainers that came up in my time in the late 90s, early 2000s, they're like, man, this is basic stuff. It seems to have fallen by the wayside ever since the influence of CrossFit, and as soon as gyms started to, as I jokingly say, lack color. When I came up, gyms were super colorful. We had all kinds of toys, different colors, stability balls, medicine balls, bands with handles and different things, and all of a sudden, everybody's gym started to look like a dang powerlifting gym. It was barbells and super bands. And now all of a sudden, people have left that and don't know what to do, and they're all going, I don't know what to do. You know, this stuff was long covered very thoroughly back in the 90s and early 2000s. So sometimes you got to look back to look forward. So trainers of my generation, I'm 40 now, so if you're like 35 and up, you're good to go, right? So everybody's back in your world. So mixing up the planes of motion. A last one, this is an old school bodybuilding technique, 1.5 reps. I wrote an article, a blog post years ago on this. The title is 1.5 reps for muscle building. You know, I'm so creative with titles. I know it's hard to memorize those. Check that out if you want a ton of references in regards to what does that mean? What does that look like? For example, on a push-up, The 0.5 rep you would go all the way down, come up halfway, go down all the way, come up all the way. Again, go down all the way, come up halfway, go down all the way, come up all the way. That's a 1.5 rep. Versus going down all the way, coming up all the way, going down halfway. Right? It's not going down halfway, it's coming up halfway. For squat, same thing. Go down all the way, come up halfway. Go down all the way, come up all the way. That's 1 rep. That's a 0.5 rep. If you're doing rows, it's kind of the reverse. This would apply to a suspension trainer or a band. Pull it all the way back. Come out halfway. All the way back again. Go out all the way. Got it? If you're doing presses, so now I have the bands behind me. I go out all the way, come down all the way, come up halfway. Go down all the way, go out all the way. That's 1.5 rep. So I gave you a ton of variations in those articles. So again, your references, free online. 1.5 reps for muscle building. That'll take you to an old blog post I did, and it'll show you a ton of ways of how to do this. And then for the band speed exercises, it's basically dynamic effort training without the barbells, just with bands with handles in your door. Or by the way, you can put NT loops over your shoulders and do dynamic effort squats. It's called 15 Exercises for a Powerful Upper Body. Speed Work with Bands is the subtitle. All right, last point here. Last few points, actually. This is a quick one. Logistics. So when you're setting up workouts for clients, remember I talked to you about anchoring bands and doors? So I'm following the premise that we're using these bands, because this is the bands that I use, NT loops and those all-purpose bands or predator bands. So you have your door anchors. A couple things to consider. One is it's a real pain in the rear end to try to have one band up top and one band at the bottom, because normally as you have the door open, as you put the one band up top, it kind of wants to fall down if you try to put another band. So usually only work with bands at the same anchor point. What I mean is anchor level. So what I mean is you're either going to go above the top hinge, between the top hinge and middle hinge, or below the bottom hinge, or between the middle and bottom hinge. Those are your reference points. Now, the reason why that sounds a little kind of fairly reasonable, I get it, but here's why that's important. Let's say you're doing exercise pairs, or you're doing trisets or quad sets like a circuit. What you don't want to have your client do is, after every exercise within a given triset or pair set, open the door after they finish one set, have to move the band up. So what I'm saying is, what I recommend against is, let's say you're going to do an exercise where you have the band anchored low, NT loop or the bands with handles, or both. Then both the exercises that you have in that paired set, or all 3 exercises, or all 4 exercises, should work off that same anchor point setting where they don't have to keep switching it. Or you have 2 from the low setting and 1 bodyweight exercise. Or 2 from the medium setting and 1 exercise where they're just holding another band, right? So you have the bands with handles in the middle, you do chest presses, turn around, you do rows, and then you grab the NT loop that's free that they hold, put it over their shoulders, and they do squats. Once they've done all those rounds, that's when you transition. Say, okay, now move the band up high above the top anchor, and then you may have 2 exercises from there, right? You do like a diagonal chop from a high point, then you go over and do a little tricep, then maybe you grab your NT loops that are free under your feet, bang, do some bicep curls. I'm just coming up with this off the top of my head. Logistically, it should flow and make sense. So keep that in mind when you're designing these programs, so you don't have your clients kind of feeling like they're discombobulated, where after every set they got to open the door, breathe. All right. Now, so those are things a lot of times we don't think about. Now, just another. I'm going to wrap up with this. 2 things. Ask your clients when you're designing programs for them, not just what pieces of equipment they have, and a lot of times they'll recommend, say, hey, look, coach, you tell me what I get and I'll get. Some people will just say, look, I got an extra room. I'll grab a bench. I'll get dumbbells. They're cool with whatever. All right. That's great. But regardless of their situation, also ask them, will you be using these bands in the same place that you might be, what's up, Jake? Where you might be using your dumbbells. And I know you're thinking like, well, what do you mean by that? Okay. If you've been doing this for a while, you've encountered the situation that I'm going to tell you. You may design a workout for a client where they're using the bands in the door and the dumbbells. However, they might tell you, this doesn't work because I have my bench and dumbbells downstairs, but the ceilings are really low down there. I can't do any overhead work, so I have to sit down on my bench to go overhead, but I don't have anything to tie the bands to there. We don't have any doors over there. The only door that's strong enough to do it is upstairs. So now you're going to have them run back and forth up the stairs. Maybe that's good cardio, but it doesn't make logistical sense. So you also want to ask them where their equipment is, and if it's all in the same place, where would you better put the bands? Is that in the same place or close by to where you may have your other equipment, right? So they may have a garage, but there's nowhere for them to attach bands in the garage. All right, so then set up workouts. So, okay, this workout you're going to do, it's primarily with bands in the door and body weight and your NT loops. So this one you'll do in the house. This other one, this will be for your garage where we don't really have any bands anchored to anything, just bands that you're holding. And I'm going to wrap this up by giving you a very silly but realistic story. I've mentioned this before on my Facebook. Trainers, we love Aerodyne bikes. We love to hate Aerodyne bikes. That's like my arch enemy, man. It's nothing harder, especially doing interval work on that. So a lot of people may, for your clients who have no problem spending however expensive Aerodyne bikes are, around $700, give or take. But when you're at a gym and everything is loud, you don't really hear how loud that bike is. Then you get home. I've had this happen to clients where it's fairly just regular home noise. You start cranking on that Aerodyne bike and that fan just going grrr, and everybody in your house goes, none of us can concentrate. You may have a spouse in the other room trying to work and they go, that thing is so friggin' loud, and you don't want to put it in the basement because it's dark and musty down there and you're not motivated to exercise. So now they spend $700 on this thing that's going to become a dust collector. Whereas if you knew this and you walk them through it, then that's $700 more they might have to spend with you over the long period of time. So sometimes you got to get a little bit more perspective from your clients in regards to how these things are going to come together when they actually implement them before you just start designing what you think is a really cool program because you're checking all the cool boxes, right? I'm doing a vertical push and I'm doing a hip hinge and I'm checking all the boxes and I'm awesome. That's the start. But again, what looks good on paper doesn't necessarily fit logistically, where you have to make compromises and you're dealing with constraints. All right, that's my spiel. Let's see. I appreciate everybody joining. I've been seeing people popping in left and right here. We will have this whole video up, shared on my Facebook, just in case you missed the front end of this. I will take